My research is focused upon the westward expansion of the Mormon pioneers and how they dealt with the existing native populations that inhabited what they considered their holy land of Zion. Tired of fighting and mob activity against themselves, they sought first to convert, feed, and lastly on occasion, fight the native population for control of the Mountain West region. The Mormon settlers had a unique worldview on the native people who inhabited the Americas. They believed, through a set of scriptures made by their prophet Joseph Smith, that Native American people were the descendants of a group of Israelites that had crossed the oceans and settled in the Americas. I have used the research tools found in the Jerry Falwell Library to review recent dissertations and theses that were focused upon the topics of Mormon and Native interactions in the West, and found differing views and treatments, with one writer taking a classical historical view and using primary sources, and another that was more focused upon using modern sources and views in their research, and used primary sources more sparingly. However, race was a key factor in the basis of both studies, which seems to be a continuing driving force in most modern academia. Christopher C. Smith, in his dissertation, Mormon Conquest, Whites and Natives in the Intermountain West, 1847 to 1851, uses a variety of primary sources such as the direct writings of Mormon leaders and journals of Mormons who settled throughout the Intermountain West. Further, Mr. Smith does use the writings or oral histories from the native people in the region to try to give a dual perspective. However, Mr. Smith's use of an extremely narrow time frame to interpret the interactions between the natives and Mormons, thus not giving an expansive and overall clear view of what the consequences of their attempts to pacify the native people were. In the end, Smith determines that, quote, Brigham Young imagined that Mormons treated natives much better than other Americans, and some historians have agreed with his assessment. The Ute leader's perspective discredits such claims, end quote. Ultimately, Smith sides with native accounts and assesses that Mormons ultimately were no better than the rest of imperial colonizing forces, albeit Brigham Young, the Mormon leader, often disapproved of using violent means unless pushed to do so, according to Smith. In Thomas W. Murphy's dissertation, Imagining Lamanites, Native Americans, and the Book of Mormon, look how the Mormon settlers treated natives in the context of seeing them as those descendants of Israelites and upon racial understanding. Instead of focusing in on using primary sources for his work, instead Murphy uses academic research and modern scholars to formulate his views and ideas. In contrast, Murphy took a more expansive look and went beyond a 4-year window as Smith did. Murphy also uses the words of more modern religious thinkers in the Mormon Church and the Mormon academics to shape his argument. Interestingly, Murphy had a broader view of the Native and Mormon interactions as he talks about relationships between the two parties after 1851. Murphy notes that by mid-1851, Young moved away from the extermination policy as he recognized it is cheaper by far, yes by hundreds and thousands of dollars cheaper, to pay such losses than raise an expedition to fight Indians. Young had contemplated the removal and assimilation as an alternative policy near the end of 1850. It would seem that if Smith had continued his research past 1851, he might have drawn a different conclusion. In the end, Murphy's overall research strays from the narrative that I am attempting to study as it makes a more determination of actions based upon racial views, but it is an important academic review as it gives an additional insight past the 1851 mark set by Smith. Ronald W. Walker makes the point that the problem with research and studies into Native and American Mormon colonizers' interaction is that the work is episodic and often uneven. At best, scholars have illuminated perspectives rather than panoramas. I hope to fill this gap by focusing on a 20-year time span of Native and Mormon interactions to better establish if crops, conversions, or conflict was the primary means of dealing with the native peoples living in the Intermountain West.